Will Miles ever truly be able to save the supervillain known as the Rabble from herself? Or has Reneem truly gone too far this time? Well, let's hop into the pages of Miles Morales Spider-Man issue number 18, the grand 300th issue celebration, and action-packed climax for this newest arc. So then, as we join things, we actually pick on up with Miles as well as Kamala Khan and shift his clone buddy as they are still hot on the trail of the Rabble. It seems that her drones that she sprinkled all over the city are only growing more dangerous and more erratic as her own powers begin to deteriorate. The good guys figure the easiest way to this supervillainous arms dealer is to try and go through some of her customers first, including Bumbler, who is actually very fitting to be the villain they go after here, considering that this is a big 300th issue anniversary special, and Cody Ziegler's first original Spider-Man villain that he created was actually Bumbler. The good guys put the screws to Bumbler, but he remains resolute that he has no idea where the Rabble is, and that he's actively been trying to turn over a new leaf, what with all these super beatdowns he's been given. Eventually, Spider-Man and the others end up chasing him so hard he has no choice but to try and seek sanctuary inside the Bar with No Name, New York's most prominent supervillain hangout. Miles attempts to infiltrate the bar and he ends up getting hit with a bit of hard, cold reality. No, he's not allowed in the bar because he's a superhero. No, he's not allowed in the bar because he isn't 21. Oh, sure, he could lie about his age and the bartender would have no way of knowing, what with the whole face covering mask and everything, but you know what? It's not a very Spider-Man-ly thing to lie now, is it? The heroes also broach the idea of maybe Kamala Khan sneaking in and shapeshifting into an adult woman, only for Miss Marvel to say, yeah, I tried that once before over in the Spider-Man book and I was murdered afterwards, so no, I'm not doing it again. Luckily, Miles has a ringer for this type of situation in his Uncle Aaron, who manages to get inside the bar not only because he's old enough, but also because he's occasionally a workaday supervillain. Turns out Aaron isn't the only one drinking at the bar either, as he ends up running into Matt Gargan the Scorpion. At first, the two mean mug each other and you think a fight's gonna break out, only for them to eventually find common ground in, get this, their mutual love and respect for Miles as Spider-Man. Yeah, it seems that despite everyone painting Scorpion as this big dumb hired muscle, he was in fact a private investigator once upon a time. And he did in fact just so happen to overhear Miles call Aaron Unk during one of their last confrontations, a secret that he very much seems that he's going to keep. It would seem that one of Miles's most endearing powers is his ability to see the good in people, even people like Scorpion who no longer see the good in themselves. After that, tracking down Bumbler isn't very hard. Turns out not only was he hiding out in the bar, but he's actually the bar boy of the Bar with No Name when he's not out being a regular supervillain. Bumbler ends up folding to Uncle Aaron like a cheap suit, but unfortunately he wasn't lying before to Miles and his friends. He actually doesn't know where the Rabble has currently set up shop. She calls him. Thankfully though, Spider-Man and his friends are smart, and all they need to do is grab a piece of tech off Bumbler so that they can reverse engineer it and try and find out where Reneem is hiding. And hey, speaking of Reneem, in the last issue we saw that her and Agent Gao of the Cape Killers had inked a very unfriendly alliance with one another. Both of them have their own unique reasons to hate Spider-Man, but they find common ground in the fact that they feel that superheroes have stolen what rightly belonged to them. Rabble is also able to play on Agent Gao's impatience, knowing full well that it's only a matter of time before her Cape Killer initiative ends up getting shut down by Mayor Luke Cage, meaning that she actually has more hand in this team-up than you might think. It's after that the story ends up shifting completely as we actually see Reneem outside of her costume and outside of being the Rabble for a moment. You may remember from her debut story that she had lost her scholarship to the Vision Academy, and then her mother had died and it pushed her down the road to becoming a supervillain. Well, surprise, surprise, in this issue we discover that her father is actually very much still alive, just racked with horrible, debilitating Alzheimer's. Meaning that the Rabble's criminal arms-dealing enterprise probably also went to support this poor guy's care. This further plays into the bigger theme about the Rabble as a character, how she's able to understand machines speak their language. But understanding people has always escaped her, which is only made worse by the fact that her father doesn't even remember who she is most days, ways and occasionally asks for the mother that we all know is dead. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Raneem tries to confide in her father all the complicated feelings she has right now, how Miles actively did try and save her from her worst impulses, but she refused to take his help, fearing that accepting the help would only further showcase just how far she had fallen from her own parents' ideals. And for a second there, it seems like the dad actually manages to come back to himself, only to once again fall into dementia, unable to actually give his daughter the help or insight that she needs. Now, over with Taskmaster and the rest of the Cape Killers, they're on what they think is their last mission, dealing with, get this, the Snatcher, probably one of the more interesting villains that was created by Saladin Ahmed for his short-lived run. The team manages to beat the guy, only for Agent Gao to say that they're already shipping out for their next mission. Gargan and the others aren't dumb though, they know that with Fist's Law being repealed, it's only a matter of time until they can't be bossed around by her anymore. Still though, Gao refuses to let go of this power, and as such she ends up digging in even harder into the Cape Killers, saying that they're still hers until at least midnight, and she plans to give them brand new tools to deal with their greatest threat, the threat that they've been fighting since the very beginning. You guessed it, Miles Morales as Spider-Man. The Rabble ends up holding up her end of the bargain by giving Gao and the rest of the Cape Killers brand new upgraded suit tech. Not only does it change their overall design, but as we learn, this technology actually is able to help a person move past their physical limitations. Basically, think about it like overclocking a computer, but you're overclocking a living being. This means that when Spider-Man does show up to once again try and appeal to the Rabble's inner humanity, he ends up walking directly into a trap with all of these brand new upgraded supervillains. Needless to say, it's a pretty bad scene, and poor Miles gets beaten down super hard early on in the fight before eventually revealing that if Gao is deciding to take the kid's gloves off, he's gonna do very much the same. As Miles digs deep, he ends up unlocking a whole new level of bioelectrical power we never thought possible. Again, in anime terms, he basically becomes Super Ascended Spider-Man Super. Which, I gotta admit, the image is actually pretty cool that Miles' electricity actually ends up becoming part of the costume itself. But the hits just keep on coming for the good guys too, as Miles doesn't have to fight this big battle alone, as Uncle Aaron, Miss Marvel, Shift, and even the Rhino, again returning from the Saladin Amid years, all come to back him up, meaning that it's Super Team versus Super Team for all the marbles. And yes, before you can say, curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal, the Rabble ends up taking over all of the brand new technology inside the Cape Killers' suits, essentially assuming full control over them, and overclocking their bodies to deadly levels. As Raneem puts it, this was always part of her master plan, her ultimate revenge against Miles, who took everything from her, a family for a family. With no other options left, Miles goes to challenge the Rabble one-on-one. Once again, Spider-Man does everything in his power to try and reach out to Raneem to try and get her to renounce her evil ways and see the light once again. Unfortunately for him, the Rabble seems dedicated to doubling down, vowing that Spider-Man will either have to kill her or die himself by the time all of this is said and done. God damn, that is gold medal in petty. And in fact, just to really rub some salt in the wounds too, the Rabble says that she's upgraded her own weapons technology to borrow some stuff directly from Miles, right down to the camouflaging. It's a good thing then too that we're reminded that Miles has been working hard in therapy to grow his spider sensibilities, meaning he's actually able to see invisible enemies, including Raneem. Unfortunately, just as things start to be turning in Miles' favor, and just as the comic begins to come to a close, we hear from the fight that Shift, who had just managed to learn how to speak thanks to Miss Marvel's help, may have actually been dealt a fatal blow, meaning as the comic comes to a close, the mood completely changes around Miles, who has gone from trying to help to now not being 100% sure what exactly he's going to do with the Rabble. And so that was Miles Morales Spider-Man issue number 18, everybody, and I gotta say, for an extra length issue, this one was truly excellent. It really does feel like a grand culmination of all the hard work that Cody Ziegler has been doing on this series since it all started. It also feels like a really well-deserved extra length issue, not just because it's an anniversary, but because this book has been forced to take place in so many different tie-ins. It's nice for the focus to really just be on the Miles story. I think the Rabble really is probably one of the greatest new comic book villains of the last couple years. She's just so classic in her mania, in her obsession, and really in her tragedy. Her nonstop hypocrisy really ends up challenging Miles' own sense of kindness and second chances. He's been able to turn around so many characters, but he might not be able to turn her around. Which, as I stop and think about it, learning that you can't save everyone is probably one of the harshest lessons that every Spider-Man is forced to learn at some point or another. Overall, I would give this one a very positive 9 out of 10. Just great stuff.
Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest. That's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.